Cool. I'm gonna hit the timer here.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, like conversation can kind of just naturally flow. What you'll find is you just end up kind of getting into it anyway.
Yeah.
This setup is new to me as well. So I'm kind of like I'm there now. I've gotten comfortable in my seat.
Yeah. Now you're like chilling.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing. Whereas here, the other thing is on my episodes, I have starting them in a particular way, and
Yeah.
I'll do that here as well. Actually, even though this is for VA,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Well, see it for you first.
yeah, I
and
might.
then go
Yeah,
from there.
we'll see how the conversation
Yeah.
goes, and I'll kind of, I'm basically doing my best Stephen Bartlett impression.
But listen, man, I thought you were doing a good Hadee impression because
Well,
this is going to confuse a lot of people.
maybe
This is going to confuse a lot
maybe I
of
should
people.
have cut my hair.
I should have trimmed my beard or something, put on a wig or something.
Put on a wig. Okay. Hadee,
Plus,
I would say welcome to the show, but you're on the show,
yeah.
kind of like me. And what we were just talking about is how people would differentiate between the two of us.
Genuinely feel like if we just swap seats halfway through, no one would
notice.
No one would care.
We'd have to, like, there's some sort of CGI that
The fact that we haven't dressed the same upsets me. Next time. Next time.
I didn't wear my uniform.
I know. I'm sorry. How dare you?
How do you recommend the audience differentiate between the two of us?
I think obviously you are the more serious one, and I'm definitely the clown. So I'm probably going to make people laugh. You're probably going to feed them with knowledge. And that's, if they're laughing, it's because of me. If they're going, oh, it's probably because of you.
Wow.
Would you agree?
I will then make an effort to try and not be too funny, and you make an effort to then not be too thoughtful.
Yeah.
And it should work out pretty fine, right?
Sounds like our lives. Literally just summed it up. Okay. Probably I like our PT sessions, right?
Yeah.
That is exactly that.
I think, yeah, if we were to observe your session and then we were to observe my session, there's a lot of me, like gazing into space, explaining things.
Detail.
And with you, it looks like, maybe you've got like a microphone, try to do some stand-up.
I tell a couple of jokes, man.
It's
an entertaining session.
It's a different vibe.
It's different, right? Yeah, and I love how you're saying different, but you're doing it in like a way where it's quite really respectful. But I kind of know that there's something behind that.
Not at all. Not at all. If you're...
But that leads it on, right? Because, being modest, and you can be modest too, right? We're both pretty successful trainers. Yeah, we've both been doing it for a while. We've both been doing it for a while. We've both been pretty successful at retaining business. But we have completely different methods. Like completely different. So... And we also have there are certain clients of ours that are very similar. So it just goes to show, what is it? I guess what the question is, why do you think people train? What is it?
Well, there's two ways for me to interpret that, and I guess it'll be worth us kind of like looking at both of those. One is, why do people train in terms of why do they engage in exercise? And then the other one is, why do they train with us? And so I guess we'll park why do they train with us. We'll come back to that in a second. And I guess we'll talk about why do people train or why do people engage in exercise. And actually it's a question that I think about quite a lot, and it's not one that I have a very clear answer on. And you can imagine with so many different types of people in the world, like the answer might vary from person to person.
Yeah.
And it's not a question that hasn't been asked before. We get the obvious answers, and when you sit down in a consultation and you ask somebody why they're here and what their goals are, they're going to say,
I just want to lose weight. I just want to get this. I just want to feel stronger. I just want to look better.
They say the generic things, right? Now, after some, once you get a little bit of experience, you start to realize there's more behind those initial statements, and you don't start driving your consultation all around like, right, this is how you tone up, and this is how you lose weight, and this is
Yeah,
how you
yeah,
get fitter. You start getting a little bit deeper into the conversation with them. You start to get to know them a little bit more as a
yeah,
person, and as you start this natural, organic chat, you learn a lot more about their why, for like, so to
yeah,
speak.
yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of the question that we're asking, right? Is like, why do people engage in exercise?
Yeah,
And then that's always going to vary from person to person. So, like the obvious reasons, yes, people want to feel better, people want to look better.
yeah.
But then the individual reasons, which are very personal, can vary massively. What would you, yeah, like what would you say?
I think like it's funny because you will never really know why someone trains from a true like without them like truthfully without trust being built until they've trusted you, then they start unpacking all of these things, right? So you have to develop that trust. Otherwise, you'll just be met with a generic answer. And then you go, fine, I'm a PT. I'm just going to help you lose weight. That's all she wants, or that's all he
Mm.
wants, or that's all they want. So the key thing for me is trust. Like my entire career has been built on relationships, built on building relationships, building rapport with someone, and building that trust. And I think that that answer of why people train, it could be because someone just wants to break. They want to break from their current routine. In their day, they want to. They're under a ton of stress, which they're never going to open up to you, tell you initially. And that break of session, that 45-minute session with you, is literally the time to themselves, the only bit of time when no one's relying on them. Do you know what I mean? And so it gets really deep. It gets really deep. And I just don't think that everyone sees how deep it can get. And I think when you have, like I said, built that trust, built a relationship with someone, they will end up training with you for life because you really understood their why and then you can unpack their why. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
no, it does. I think you've actually kind of landed on, you kind of extended the previous point in a very unique way because uh, going deeper and finding out more about their why, and
Yeah.
then them carrying on with you because actually you're the one of the first people or one of the few people that they've come across, and it's very
Yeah.
rare for any of us to come across these people that are like, wait, I actually had an opportunity to dig deeper into me.
Yeah.
And in most general interactions that you have, whether it's coworkers, whether it's family, friends, or whatever, you don't really get to do that. A lot
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
social
Yeah.
interactions are very surface, very quick banter.
Yeah.
Um, like you never really just get to the whole conversation kind of being focused on you. And that is such an amazing situation for somebody to find themselves in. And if you can give that to someone, not only do you discover their why, but you create such a unique experience and such a unique sort of interpersonal connection. And yeah, that generally tends to like that build of trust,
Correct. Yeah.
that formation of like such a quality relationship in their life and you're giving them something that they're just not getting from anybody else. And
Yeah.
actually, this is quite an amazing topic. So I don't know when this is going to air, but just this weekend gone, I had to go to a conference for a 10-year anniversary for a mentorship group that I've been part of for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And one of the speakers was a lady named Kathy McDonald. Kathy McDonald was running a course called The Art of Communication. So, quick background on Kathy: she's an ex Scotland Yard hostage negotiator. Um, I met her 9 years ago and like literally went through this life transforming communications course, teaching us how to handle communications with people. And like, we did like role play with like like the other hostage
Yeah.
negotiators, and it was,
That sounds intense,
it was
man.
intense. It was like
It
literally
sounds
my
super intense.
whole world completely changed. And it was amazing.
We post that you're negotiating with everyone, man.
So it's going back to the point. I was it's like the third time I'm getting to like spend some time with her, and she's just giving this talk, and she said something to like the whole entire room, and there's like 50 people in this room, and she's like, "Oh, like Mus, you've actually had your clients for a long time now." And at the time, at the point of the talk was about these buckets that we fill for people, and she goes like, "You must be doing a very good job of filling these buckets for people, um, and if you can figure out how you do that, like you've basically just got this very repeatable winning formula."
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, I sat there, and all my response was, "Mm-hmm." I didn't say much,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, of course. A typical most responsible.
And
Yep, fine. Accept it.
but I couldn't. I was like, why do these people stay with me for so long? And
Yes.
going back to what we were saying at the beginning, you're very funny.
Yeah.
I'm very serious and
Yeah.
thoughtful. I'm not actually entertaining them.
They've not come to you for a laugh.
They don't
No.
go through for a lot. And
Yeah, but you say that, but
but so what you were talking about
yeah,
there, as you were talking, I was like, that's kind of starting to answer that question for me. Because what I have done is given them that opportunity to go a little bit deeper. Somebody basically sat there, and because I'm very thoughtful, I'm also like good at listening.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then very rarely do you get to sit with somebody who kind of just gives you the time and space
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to think your thoughts and feel your feelings and not like interrupt you all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's probably like a rare interaction for these people that they don't get elsewhere. I don't know if you can
No,
confirm that
if I'm honest,
interaction.
no, I can because the thing is that like you often forget and you often you forget the fact that these people or the people that you're dealing with, they go, I love the way I feel in these 45, like how this 45 minutes has made me feel. I like it. I like the fact that I've got someone who will listen. You know, in my case, I like the fact that I've got someone who tells dad jokes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I like the fact that I can leave this session and I feel better than when I started. And that feeling that I always say, that's what makes PT so special, right? Is that we can generate that feeling and just give it to someone.
I think if I, yeah, like, like now kind of flipping it to you, and I've obviously observed some of the sessions that you run and the relationships that you have with your clients, and all the jokes and everything aside, there is this general energy of easygoingness. So
Yeah.
what you can like consistently observe as a pattern in terms of how your clients are coming across is they actually come in across as quite relaxed in your presence. And that's probably not something that they,
Do
again,
daily, right?
yeah, like
Every day they don't feel like they can't be like that in their day-to-day life.
there's probably, who can, right? Like,
Yeah.
so how often do you get to be around people where your nervous system is calm?
Yeah.
Most of the time, we're on some level of alert. We've all got like this whole long history of life experiences, a significant percentage of which would have been, varying degrees of unpleasant.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're carrying that with us. Some people may be doing therapy and helping themselves, and a lot of people aren't, but that's a different story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's so rare to be in the presence of somebody that kind of makes you feel calm, relaxed, makes you laugh.
Yeah.
Like these things are super important. They're super, super, super valuable. And it's really interesting that this conversation has gone in this direction.
Yeah.
It's not gone in the direction of, what exercises they're doing,
No,
or like,
it's not.
how much protein they're eating or anything like that.
That like it's so at this you'll know it's not irrelevant, right? Because people train because they want results and they'll get results, but the reality is people train because they want to feel better than they used to feel. Do you know what I mean? And that's been my ethos throughout my career, right? I'm not about body transformations that are going to leave people looking great but feeling worse than when they started. Do you know what I mean? I'm not in the game of making someone look a certain way at the cost of their general well-being. I am the complete opposite. Now, if you only lose the smallest amount of weight compared to what your goal was, but then end up feeling phenomenal and your day-to-day things improve and your general mood improves and you actually feel better about yourself, then what does it matter that you only lost a little bit of weight? You get what I mean? And I think that's what the power of it's why personal training often doesn't get the respect it deserves. Personal trainers don't get the respect it deserves because it's seen as a job that is you think of a brain surgeon, you think of a lawyer, you think of a barrister, you think of all of these you know bankers. They're respectful. Like you tell someone you're an investment banker, they go, oh, I'm really interested. Now you tell someone you're a personal trainer and they're like, oh, do you know what I mean? And I felt that throughout my entire career. And I'm like, no, these people need trainers too. I have the power to change someone's life. Do you know how special that is? That I can literally change a life through my skill set. And I'm pretty passionate about it, as you can tell. But this is probably the side of me that it comes out in sessions, right? That not everyone sees, but I'm genuinely passionate. That I've got genuine passion to improving someone's life. And it doesn't matter if I get them back squatting, if I'm honest. If I never have to take you through a back squat, fine. If that's something you don't want to do, fine. There's like hundreds of exercises that you can do, right? And that's basically how I've just lived this career as a personal trainer. It's why I got into, it's why I've gone into coaching personal trainers and advising personal trainers on how to conduct a business. Because it's not all about getting someone in shape at the cost of their health, right?
So you touched on respect, respect for the profession,
Yeah.
and yeah, you present yourself as a surgeon, you present yourself as a lawyer. Generally, society considers those things to be, worthy of respect, and
Yeah.
I agree with that. They are worthy of respect. Um, why do you think it is that the general person from the public doesn't view personal training with respect?
Good question. That's a really good question. I'm trying to find a way to answer it. Actually, I'm going to answer it the way I'd answer it off camera. I think they've probably had a bad experience with one because there's so many that have resorted to personal trainers who are no longer personal trainers now because it didn't work out for them, that they've kind of ruined it. There's been just so many, right? I know you're giggling, but there've been so many, and there have been a lot of not so great ones that have unfortunately ruined the experience for a certain individual. And then they're just,
Well,
I'm trying to be PC, if you know.
no, I get it. So there's like three.
Would you agree?
Uh,
That's the question.
I'll answer that because there's three different potential contact points,
Yeah.
right, to extend what you're saying. One is what you've sort of stated, that someone's worked with somebody and it's not been a good experience. True.
Yeah.
Then there's also the I know a personal trainer, or I've met a personal trainer and my interaction with them wasn't very reassuring to me that this is a serious person. And then the third is I'm in a gym and I can see the personal trainers and I'm observing them and they don't look very professional to me, and therefore I'm not going to take them seriously. So like those are the three potential scenarios, and maybe there's more, where a member of the general public will have some level of interaction or gain an impression from a personal trainer. So yeah, like if you go into a gym, I'm not going to name the names of the gyms because I don't want this to be slanderous and get sued. But you might go into a gym and you'll see a number of personal trainers, some of which may be running a professional service and some of which may be not running such a professional service. You might be just at a party and you meet somebody and they start like telling you off about if your eating habits or that
Mm.
you haven't been going to the gym, or they start applying too much pressure and making you feel a
Yeah,
particular
yeah, yeah.
way, or saying that you should like lose some weight or something like that. Again, these are unpleasant interactions.
Man,
Um,
we could sit here. We could probably sit here and list all of the things our clients have told us a PT has said or done before.
okay, so let me make this a bit more interesting.
Oh, here we go. You know when you do that, right? You know when you let me make this a little bit more interesting. You sit up, right? It doesn't fill me with too much confidence.
One,
Like,
so like one of the things I like to do is it's so easy. Everyone you talk to, including us, right? We're so, as humans, we love judging other people. And it's like, I'm not going to hide about that. Like, that's
mm,
the reality. You talk and we kind of bond through the criticism of others. It's like a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
natural way humans like form tribes. And so, and I always like to be a little bit counter to like the natural human instinct and think a little bit more logically. And I'm like, well, okay, wonderful. But that's only so constructive in terms of from a bonding standpoint. How about I look at myself,
Mm,
and how about I turn that eye of judgment onto myself
yeah,
and be like, okay, so here's all the different ways personal trainers had created a negative impression towards the public. Oh, I'm a personal trainer.
yeah.
How many times have I left somebody with a negative impression? And I can certainly say, I've been a trainer for like next year is year number 20, I believe. So I'm closing in on 2 decades.
How are you older than me? I don't understand it. You've clearly had a better paper round than I have.
Well, we can ask the audience who they think looks older,
Who looks older?
right?
Me or this guy?
um, but yeah, like there's probably I've lost count, but we're probably closing in on like around 1,000 different people trained, maybe
Yeah.
more. And I can't literally say like every single one of those people had a positive experience from me. Certainly in my first 7 to 8 years, I
The first couple, right? You learn a lot, right?
I
You
was
learn
not
a
very
lot.
good at training people at
Yeah.
all. And then even now, today, I'm still like not always giving the very best experience that I feel that I can give. My clients might not necessarily notice it, but I do.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's well, not a million people. There's loads of. There's some people that
You know
would.
what I think the difference is though, and I'll be honest, is that yes, I can also list a ton of things I've done wrong in my career, but there's always been some form of genuine care for the individual that is in front of me behind it. I've never just done this job for an income. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes people do turn to this job as a last resort because they can charge X, Y, and Z for a session. And if I do 30 sessions, I can get this amount of money. And then people start becoming a number as opposed to an individual, if that makes sense.
No, that's very fair. Because it's, I guess, I maybe was starting to go down a bit of a self-critical route
Mm.
there. And
But I used to do a thing, right? And, if any of my old clients are watching this, I apologize. But you'd book out 9 sessions in a day. And the reality is the first two get a very good version of you. And then the next two, you're starting off, you're still delivering a service, but then you're hungry. I ain't got time to eat. And so one of them clients, you're sat eating a ham bagel in front of him, right? And he sat there and I was, this is legit a thing. I'd sit there and I'm like, I wonder what client wouldn't mind me eating in front of them. And then he'd start eating. And then I might want a coffee and then I'll have a coffee. And then all I'm doing in the background is going, oh yeah, but I've got 10 clients today. And then you sit there, by the time you get to session 7, 8, and 9, you're finished. So they get a terrible version of you. And so if we're talking about being critical, that was my career early doors.
you know what, you listening to that, you actually reminded me of a trainer. I'm going to do this,
Like, don't do that because now you're offending me.
No,
I'm
no,
joking,
no,
I'm joking, I'm joking.
this is one of the times that it's actually probably valid for me to do this.
Okay, fine.
Because now that I think back, it was actually a bit of taking the mick kind of situation.
Yeah.
But this is very, very, very early doors.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Same with me. If I do that now, just say it.
This isn't me, by the way. It just reminded me of one of
It
the more
isn't me.
ridiculous situations that I came across. And bear in mind, this is almost 20 years ago. This person didn't last very long as a personal trainer, by the way. And it was just, they kind of got in through the same person that gave me an opportunity, gave them an opportunity. And he used to boast about, and he'd even like post it on Facebook, right? Because it wasn't on Instagram and stuff at the time. That he would be basically like his client would be doing exercise and he'd just be sitting there smoking a fag.
No way. Come on, that's reckless. That's not a thing, surely.
That
No way.
when I tell you, so you having
Ham bagel.
ham bagel
Love a ham bagel.
might not be so bad.
It's bad. That's insane.
Relative to
Like, that's got to be the worst thing I think I've seen someone do. Kind of smoke indoors.
I was just, but you know what's really interesting about that is it's actually a very, very, very solid example of what we were talking about with the relationship side of things.
Yeah.
That even though the client had a personal trainer who was literally just hanging out on the wall smoking a cigarette, that
Still
the
come back.
value of the relationship and how he made his client feel.
Yeah.
Because one thing I will say about that guy is he was actually very highly personable. You know, he was like a fun person to be around. He was like very passionate, very animated. He wasn't really a personal trainer in my opinion.
Yeah.
He was kind of just like passing
Like
through.
a friend.
Yeah. He was just passing through. He took the opportunity because it kind of got
Do
presented
charges
to
for
him.
their company.
And you know, so I don't want to like paint him in too bad light, like he's just terrible person. But it's quite shocking
Yeah.
what people will accept as a level of service, so long as you meet certain other requirements, depending on the client.
Yeah.
I have some clients. Not a single one of my clients would tolerate me, and I don't smoke, FYI. Not a single one of my clients would tolerate me smoking a cigarette in their session. They wouldn't leave me immediately, but words would definitely be had.
Yeah. You've got that good enough relationship for them to be like, put it out. Put it out.
Furthermore, why are you smoking?
Yeah.
So but these are memories from like a long time ago, and you just triggered it there. I was like,
I mean, you were talking about being self-critical, and I think the thing is like I said, you do learn. Is it because back in the day, 20 years ago, or in my case, 10 years ago, we are that different in age, right?
Yes,
It's mad. For the record, you're not 10 years older than me, right?
Close?
No,
No.
you're not. It must be like half of that.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. But when it comes to having a mentor as such, no one prepped me for what happens when I get really busy. Do you know what I mean? There was no time management things for me. I set off into the PT world and was like, I'm just going to do it. And then because you may see other people do it, you might see online that other people are doing it, or the way they behave online, you're like, cool, this is my thing. This is how I'm going to operate. And then it's only when you surround yourself by other people and other successful trainers, you realize, oh no, actually there's a level of professionalism here that no matter the relationship with someone, I'm still a professional. People are still buying, they're still purchasing your service, right? So there's a level that there's a level that they would expect.
I suppose that's actually there's an amount of self-discipline required.
Yeah.
Because it is actually very easy because you get like these really great clients basically, and the great clients are the ones you end up having these great relationships.
Yeah.
I.e., I would spend time with you even if you weren't paying me.
Literally, yeah.
And they're the ones that you almost have to work double hard at making sure that you're still on time for their session, you still prioritize them, you still go out of your way to make sure that some level of progress is occurring in their training.
Because there's a goal at the end of the day.
Right. And
we've unpacked that why already.
To just like override it with the friendship.
Yeah.
Whereas like I'll kind of like say quite bluntly, and somebody did ask me this, another trainer asked me this. They said, "Do you get along with all of your clients?" And I actually said, "No, I don't." Uh,
Professionally, you would though.
that every single one of them is going to get the training service from me. So I've got this, because we're on this conversation about trainers, right?
Yeah.
I've got this differentiation between what I call a personal trainer and what I call a professional trainer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there are lots of personal trainers out there. And we can maybe say Cigarette Guy was a personal
Personal trainer.
trainer.
Yeah, yeah.
What I try my best to be actually is a professional trainer,
Yeah, yeah.
i.e., that I have got some plan in place to take you physiologically from point A to point
Mm,
B. There is coaching involved in the service.
correct.
I'm always keeping my eye on that side of things, and I'm not just. It's like a happy coincidence that we get along as people,
Yeah.
but not every single one of my clients I get along with them on a personal level. And even if they don't realize it, I know because with some people I'm having to mask a little bit more
Yeah,
and
yeah,
play
yeah.
character. Some people I can just be
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And there's a small number of those individuals. And even then, like, yeah, to some extent we'll get along for that hour.
Yeah.
But I'm I'm mainly focused on, how are your pull-ups going?
Correct. Yeah. I think there is an element of it's very, very important that we do remember there is a goal behind that. There is a goal. I want to provide some form of value to you each time I see you, right? So, we'll have a great relationship, but it is a professional relationship. It's not, I get what you mean. I have to think about professional relationships and personal relationships. So, there is a time where you've been training someone for so long, right? And then it can kind of merge, but the professional relationship will always override the personal relationship while you're my client. Do you know what I mean? So if you are no longer paying for my PT service, and will I still check in with you? Absolutely. Can I say that my clients from 8 years ago that I trained, sorry, for 10 years ago, that I trained for 8 years, that I no longer train now, do we meet up as families and go out and see them? Absolutely. Because that relationship started off as a professional one while I was training them, maintained a professional one, and then now they don't require my professional service anymore. I now have a personal relationship with them,
Hmm.
right? Now, if they start purchasing my service again during them sessions and during that entire time, I have a service to give you. And so I'm pretty passionate about you come to me for to get a goal, right? And that's what
I
happens.
think, yeah, it does. It can just sort of flip back. I've certainly got situations where I've got clients that have worked with me, then not worked with me, then worked with me
Yeah.
again. But during the time they weren't working with me, we were actually friends.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and that's probably one of the reasons. And there's two. Some people do this in a bit of a sleazy way
Yeah.
where they maintain like a false friendship for business purposes,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Like, oh, how's it going? And
Yeah.
like, but they don't
Just
really
checking
care.
in.
Yeah, it's just a tactic or a strategy to kind of like reel the customer back in. I don't like to do anything that isn't genuine.
Correct.
Um, I just like it doesn't make sense for me to force it because it's the impact that it also has on my sort of mental well-being to kind of pretend to care when I don't. People ideally like they generally know if I care or not. So with some clients, I will check in because I we got along as people, and that still matters to me.
Mm.
And part of that conversation is also going to be how's your training going because I cared about their training.
Yeah.
But then there are some people like
Just drop off the radar.
once they're gone, not intentionally, but they didn't stay in my brain.
Yeah.
So it was like I didn't even think that I should contact or reach out to them and ask them how they're doing. And again, there's like been I literally have lost count, but there's around like
It's a good problem to have, I think, if you're starting to create a personal relationship with someone. I believe it shows signs that you if someone has trusted you to that level where a relationship is being built, the service that you're giving is one that they value, right? So that means you are in constant communication with this individual. So you're probably into the detail of their goal. You're probably into the detail of their journey. You're probably walking that journey with them, right? So it's all of these are signs of, in my opinion, as a good service. So the fact that you can enter that, because some people don't even get near it. Some people don't even get near that relationship building stage, and they're like, I'm just training you. I'm just training you. I'm going to do your session. You're going to go home, and then I'm just going to see you in the next session.
So you actually in a quite an interesting situation because whilst I work as a personal trainer, um, that's my only role. You also work in a um, head of department for fitness
Yeah.
within Virgin Active, which means that and not just in one club, right? You actually oversee
Yeah. So yeah, I pop in and act as support.
a
To the
number of
others, yeah.
clubs, which means you get to engage with and somewhat oversee a number of different trainers
Yeah.
and their businesses. And whilst you're probably going to have more insight with with the club that you're based at, you might maybe be picking up on patterns across the board. So that sort of relationship building, and if you're sort of seeing like a consistent pattern of relationships not forming or breakdowns of
Yeah.
relationships within trainers' businesses, is there something that sort of sticks out as to
I can always tell. So uh, when I'm teaching a course to new trainers, right? So I deliver a training course to new trainers that come into the company. I recognize signs, and I'm like, cool, they're gonna be all right. And it's usually the way they carry themselves and the fact that they're very, very, they find having a conversation or starting a conversation very easy. So it's them personable skills that I do think trump anything early doors in your career. Like early doors, you can only, don't get me wrong, you can only be like a personable person as it doesn't, that's not all you need to be a successful personal trainer, because the lack of knowledge will kick in. They're like, people will then start to see, actually, I'm not getting too much value from this person. So then they're like, I didn't want just a friend, right? So there is a level there needs to be a base level of knowledge there. But if you've got great personable skills, and that's what I notice whenever I see a trainer and I see the way they carry themselves, they are coming out to say hello. Like they're not afraid to approach someone and say hello. You can see that they're interacting with every being. They've got a relationship with everyone. Like, oh, hey. Like you can see it. You can feel that energy. They're the ones where I go, cool. They're not shy about building a relationship. All that we would need to do as coaches is make sure that they've got that knowledge there. And so for someone like yourself, for someone like me, let's use me as an example. If young me was in front of me now, I know that I wouldn't need to coach his personable skills. I know that I wouldn't need to coach him on how to approach someone. All I would need is to coach his knowledge. I coach his knowledge. This is how you would structure a session. This is how you would follow up with clients. This is the kind of session program, and this is what it looks like. And I'd go into the detail of actually training with someone maybe like yourself early doors in your career. I never met you 20 years ago, but I'm trying to picture you 20 years ago. I've got a feeling that you're pretty good at approaching people, but I know that you've probably come with a huge amount of knowledge. So is it something that I'd probably work on with you on the approach and the personable side? Possibly. But you probably were able to, right? Because I've met you in a different light.
was
But
probably so many things to work on.
yeah, but obviously, but then you have someone in front of you, and I always say, like my position, I can't fix the world, man. Like I'll be honest with you, you have to focus on different, like a certain aspect
I
and go
think
from there.
so. Like, I mean, I started off as the person selling gym memberships,
Okay, fine.
So like I did a lot of sales jobs.
Yeah.
By nature, I'm like very to myself and introverted, but I've also always had that
Ability to
skill,
turn it on,
that
right?
ability. Yeah, if you know if you put me in a situation,
Yeah.
I'm gonna start playing the role.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that side of it wasn't necessarily the most challenging thing. That being said, if you saw me in that room with the new trainers, I probably would have been one of the people that you would have identified as not being able to do that because I'm not, unless asked to,
Yeah.
I'm not turning it on.
Correct. However, that, like I said, it's not the only thing that I see, right? So, but then what I would do is probably identify when you're in a session, I can see it. And I'm like, that guy knows how to train someone. And there's, because you're confident, like, just because someone might not be confident straight away, like in a conversation setting, but the moment you put them out on a gym floor with a client, they transform. And this is, I guess, it comes down to being a successful PT within a gym, surrounded by other trainers. Sometimes people transform when they're in a session, and all of a sudden they are a confident individual because they're confident in their ability, they're confident in the training side of it. But it's the getting that business in the first place that they struggle with.
Okay, well, I think it boils down to the word that you just used there, the key word being confidence, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's ultimately what we're saying. So if somebody is starting out and they aren't particularly confident, and that's quite a normal thing, right? That's
yeah,
natural.
yeah, yeah,
Nobody should feel bad about not feeling confident at the
yeah.
beginning. That's like the most normal thing to experience.
If you don't feel it, it's weird.
So, what then would you say to that individual in terms of how to then get to a place where they are starting to feel confident?
It's funny because it's a big thing. Obviously, when I've got a bunch of new trainers in front of me, I say the one thing you have to realize, like, do you care? Let's say confidence aside, forget your confidence. Do you care? Do you care about the individual? Do you care about changing their life? And you need to acknowledge that you have the power to change someone's life. You actually have the knowledge because you're actually trained in it. You do actually have the knowledge and you do know more than most people generally in the gym. Most, not all, but most. You will have more knowledge than the average gym goer because you're trained in it. Yeah. So never forget that. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's up to you. But as long as you can show that you care, that is all that will shine. Whatever interaction you have with someone, if you're not fully confident in it, right? I'm not necessarily fully confident with approaching you, but I'm showing you I'm genuinely interested into what you're saying. I'm listening to you. I'm showing that I care about what you're talking about, and I actually do have an answer, or I can actually leave you with some form of value. That confidence, you do that enough time, and all of a sudden you become a confident individual, or you'll become more confident at having that initial stage.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to actually look at it, and it's probably the most raw way you can look at it. And instead of thinking about how confident you're feeling or not confident you're feeling, instead, if you can just simply focus on do you care,
Yeah,
the confidence kind of naturally comes as a byproduct because it's like, right, I don't I'm just starting out,
yeah,
but I really want to make this work. And that in itself is like I'm verbally saying I care.
yeah.
People respond to that. And that's actually how I started out.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of new trainers, they might go up to and like they'll think, oh, I can't coach a back squat to a really high level. Like I know that I don't have, like I can't really do a deadlift. I don't really want to have to try and coach for a deadlift because I'm scared that how it would. Yeah, and none of that matters, man. None of that matters.
Well, so like
Not initially.
I've got you know, now I think about it, right? So we work in the same club,
Mm,
and for roughly about the same time we've been there. Um, and we've seen a number of trainers come and go. My experience, and I think yours was very different as well, to what these club trainers are experiences, because I didn't start off necessarily in a like commercial gym setting,
Mm,
and I don't think you did either.
no.
So what happens is you can kind of go in, and I was just excited about what people could do, and people vibed off of that excitement. What I think might be slightly different, and a variable that, like a compounding variable that wasn't really involved in our situation, that maybe a new trainer in a Virgin Active Club would be experiencing, is they turn up on their first day and they turn around, and you're training your client over there. That trainer who's been a trainer for 5 years is training their client over there. This trainer who's like in amazing shape is training their client
Mm.
over there, and all these different trainers are there, and then they start to fall into the comparison trap.
Yeah, it's the comparison. The comparison trap is the one. It's the one that we always talk about comparison being a thief of joy, right? Like we always talk about we should never compare across anything. But it's the worst thing you can do as a new trainer is go and look at another trainer and go, I'm not that, I'm not there yet. Look how confident they are with that person. Look how confident this person is with that person. You can't be like that. You have to just I started in a self-employed environment. It was only me. So I could only be the best version of me. I could only show how much I cared. I could develop my skill set. I had no one to compare myself to. This is my service. And if I'm honest, I wasn't going to go out my way to try and compare myself to another trainer, right? Because there was not really any near me. However, when you're in a commercial gym, this it goes for all of them. You're going to be surrounded by a bunch of trainers, and then you sit there going, all of these trainers are established. All of these trainers are busy. I need to be like them. I'm not like them. I'm different. And then they start falling into that trap, and it gets you thinking. Doesn't in most cases it's not used as a positive thing. They go into a negative spiral. It's not like, oh, I'm looking at someone, I'm lifted, and I'm like, oh, cool, I need to be more like that. I need to be this. I need to be that. It's, oh, I don't have that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. And then it gets quite negative, and then the mindset drops, and then the mood drops, and then you don't feel great about yourself. And then any interaction that you have with someone, you can't show them that you care because you feel really, really down about yourself, right? And it's the whole imposter syndrome. Then they don't feel like they're a trainer, and then it doesn't. We've
Okay.
watched enough fail, right?
Yeah, I think we've seen examples of both, and it's actually pretty evident that, yeah, the ones that do quite well are the ones that are focused on like what they're doing and what they're going to do, and they basically, like, they're so focused on caring about what they do,
Yeah.
and the ones that don't do well tend to focus on caring about what other people are doing. And even the trainers that maybe, and I'm not throwing shots here,
Yeah.
I'm saying this very objectively, even the trainers that do kind of like carve out a living from it and do end up building a bit of a client base, um, they never quite maximize the potential of themselves, because they're still kind of carrying that caring too much about what the other
Mm.
people are doing. And then the ones that you see that are like really maxing it out, and like having the best businesses and the best relationships, they're generally the ones that are so like tunnel vision
Tunnel vision.
focused.
Yeah. This is my
Yeah,
job. This is my
they don't
service.
even know
Yeah.
what like everybody else is doing,
Yeah.
right? Um, so even if you're maybe, and this is just me observing, not like a beginner PT, but you're maybe in the middle, you're quite experienced, that it's still working against you when you're kind of like too in the comparison
Yeah.
trap.
It translates to clients, doesn't it? And this is probably why it's been quite easy for me to transfer from a managing clients to managing trainers, because it's for me, it's always essentially been the same. Because you're with clients, they will always compare themselves to someone else. I'm not seeing results as fast as this. I'm not seeing results as fast as that. That person on Insta looks this way. I don't look like that. I want to look like this person. I want to look like that person. I don't look like that yet. And then they start to feel horrible. And then they start to feel terrible about themselves. And then they get demotivated. And then so what we do as trainers, right? We go, Just focus on yourself. Stop looking at everything else. Are you feeling better than you did 2 weeks ago? How are you going to feel in 6 months if you carry on? Do you get what I mean? And then sometimes it's our job to go, yeah, focus on yourself. Focus on nothing other than yourself. I don't care about Instagram. I don't know or care what you're liking or what people are being sent to you. Just focus on yourself. How do you feel?
Okay, that's a probably a pretty good segue here to like maybe like this final bit. Um, quick quick fire tips for uh, our audience watching and or listening
Fine.
for this week. What are and I'll give mine as well.
I was going to say, you go. We'll go one each. Let's see. Let's see if we get the same one.
What's like the tip of the week, and it could be training related, nutrition related, it could be business related, it could just be personal related, like whatever you feel it was gonna like help people to think about most, like what's
Yeah.
most helpful.
Nothing other than how you feel matters. Nothing. That is probably the most straightforward way I can say it, right? Nothing outside of how you are feeling in this journey matters. That's the reality. I don't care about anything, anyone, or anything else in this relationship of me being a PT and you're a client. And you'll remember nothing outside of what you are doing should matter to you. Do you feel good? Are you seeing improvements? And I didn't even want to say, are you looking forward to going to the gym? Because at that point, it doesn't matter, just get there. Do you know what I mean? So are you doing what you're doing? Does it make you feel good? Yeah. And is it working for you? Because if the answer is no to them, then look to change. Look at adapting, right? And that's always been my tip to people.
So nothing other than how you feel matters. Okay.
You know what I like? This is what I like about us, right? Is that I'm quite here, and then you're like, bang.
What
You're used to me, innit? You're used to
I'm
me.
mindful. I'm mindful. We're recording an episode here, so I'm not going to get into like a longer philosophical debate.
Yeah.
But I could definitely counter that, unfortunately.
Oh, just quickly go for it. I just want to hear it.
Nothing but the evidence of actions matter. So sometimes people might feel one way, but actually the evidence is to the contrary. If over a period of 3 months, we can demonstrate that you've gotten stronger, but 3 months later, you're feeling kind of crappy about how strong you are, we can evidence that actually you're
Yeah.
right. So I know what you're saying.
We're kind of on the same page, but you read it in a nicer way. Does that make sense? Like you can tell that
I generally tell people the opposite. I'm trying. I'm not going to swear, but I do swear when I say this, and so I'll kind of abbreviate it.
I'll beep it. Just tell me when to beep it.
I
Beep.
I usually just tell people very straight up, F your feelings, because sometimes, especially if you're in a set and it's a hard set, it's not going to feel very good. But we understand the context of the situation overall is very constructive.
Yeah.
So your feelings are going to be misleading. You're not going to necessarily feel like going to the gym, but if you turn up and tick that box, you're going to be better off for it. You're not going to feel like doing a lot of things that are actually quite constructive for you and like a long term make you feel better and improve your well-being. So I actually encourage people not to focus on their feelings so much within the context of like taking action towards wellness, but actually like create systems and routines, focus on the evidence, and you, through the process of neuroplasticity, start to train your brain to act in a particular way.
What's incredible, right? Is that you're going F your feelings and I'm going It's what you feel. Yeah. And that's what I mean about PT, right? We've got two different methods. We've got one overall goal, right? That both of us care. And that's key. Yeah. Both of us care about our clients. Both of us care about the individual in front of us. Now, how you get them there and how I get them there we might have different like methods, right? But the reality is both people are happy. Yeah. Both people get results and both people stay with us.
There is the likelihood of people feeling like they're moving in a positive direction, regardless of the message that's driving it. And
Yeah.
it's not actually, even though it seems that way, we're not actually saying the opposite thing.
I know.
You're saying one thing in one way, and I'm saying another thing in another way,
And a more articulate, nicer. And I'm telling you, you're like the refined me. Maybe you're me in like 6 years' time.
Maybe instead of a tip, I should have said, Hadee's joke of the week.
Hadee joke of the week. Listen.
I think probably what would probably be a nice addition would be a funny. You don't have to do it this week, but like to actually, because you do the whole being silly with people and paying attention to when things are being funny. It's like, okay, well, yeah, like your funny story of the week, that kind of thing.
Where do I start?
And I could be a little bit more like the serious tip of the week.
We can go with a story of the week. Maybe that will be for a future
future episode. All right, cool. Well, that's quite a lot in.
It's a lot, man.
In one.
But I always said this is what happens when me and you sit in a room, like, because this is what our general day-to-day conversations are like, and that's why we have to limit them, because otherwise none of us will get worked up. And so the fact that we get a setting like this, it is a lot.
There's certainly a fair amount of chatting that goes on. All right, cool. So in true podcast fashion, where can people find you?
So they can find me on Instagram. They can find me in Virgin Active Mayfair. They can find me playing for the Cypriot rugby team. They can find me anywhere they want me to.
All right. Well,
just don't mistake me for him.
Well, it happens a lot. There's probably a lot we could touch on there, but we've only got so much time. And yeah, if wherever you're tuning in to this, feel free to leave feedback or comments on anything that we've discussed today. Be happy to hear from it. It might be something that we kind of bring up in future conversations. Definitely want to have audience participation in that regard, and we're happy to kind of like extend any conversations that you found interesting.
Yeah.
All right. For now,
peace.
Peace.